Hello chess friends and welcome to Zarov's chess channel and welcome to the life and chess games of Garry Kasparov. So in this series we're following Garry Kasparov's life and his chess career from the year 1981 till 2000. And today we're continuing the series with the first game from the Moscow Interzonal tournament in 1982. So we have now finished the USSR Chess Championship in 1981, in which Garry Kasparov finished in the first place, qualified then for this Interzonal tournament, and in this tournament he faced really the best chess players back from the 80s. He faced, for instance, Mikhail Tal, Alexander Beliavsky, and many more of these top grandmasters in order just to make it to the candidates. Then after that, to face really even more stronger players, and then finally to face Anatoly Karpov in 1985 for the World Championship. So it's really a tough road, but Garry Kasparov was playing really great, and today I wanted to show you his first game from the Interzonal tournament in Moscow in 1982 against Gyula. Gyula was twice the Hungarian national chess champion, and he won also the Youth European Chess Championship, so he was also a strong player. And this game is really an example which shows how he shouldn't go and play against Garry Kasparov, how he shouldn't go and force tactical lines, because if you play with fire, if you play with the devil may come to you, because we know how great Garry Kasparov was tactically prepared. The only player I believe in chess history that could compete in a tactical level with Garry Kasparov was maybe Vasily Ivanchuk, but we'll come to that point of chess history later in the series. So it will be, as I said, a really dynamic and really great series, this Garry Kasparov saga, because we have really some great games. So let's check out now this game played by Garry against Gyula Sachs. Here Garry played move d4, Sachs played knight to f6, c4, g6, knight to c3, and we have d5, the Grünfeld. The Grünfeld is a very dynamic opening. You see white is challenged immediately in the center after c takes d, knight takes d, e4. This is the main line in which knight takes c, b takes c3 happens most of the time. And after bishop to g7, here bishop to c4 played by Garry Kasparov. One of the main ideas of the Grünfeld is to crack the position with the move c5 immediately. The pawn structure is similar to the Tarrasch defense, where black first of all leaves white this very dominant pawn center control, but then cracks the center with pawn moves c5, e5, for instance, are possibilities to really break white's pawn center. And the main idea is to get this bishop activated. What the problem of the Grünfeld from black's perspective is that you don't have so many defenders in front of the king. Most of the times you see the knight plays a very important role on f6, which protects the king very well. And now you see this knight is too far away from the action. So the only defensive piece that you have in front of the king is the bishop. The problem for white is that most of the times you cannot go immediately h4, h5. It doesn't bring you so much. You could play this as a strategical idea, but this idea to play bishop to h6, queen to d2, to create the bishop and queen battery in order to trade off the bishops and create a flank attack sometimes could cause some problems for white, as you cannot castle queenside. You cannot go into this opposite side attack game in which white will castle on the queen side and black is going to castle on the king side, like in the Yugoslav attack of the Dragon Sicilian. So because the pawn structure on the queen side is already weakened, we have played b takes c3. So I'm talking about the ideas here. It's really important to understand what are the possibilities for both sides. In the game, Sachs castled, and we have now bishop to e3 played by Kasparov. Now comes b6, which is also a playable variation. But as I said, the main line would be something like c5, and then maybe knight to e2, in which white tries to keep a compact position, and then after potential bishop to g4, we will still have the opportunity to play f3 and rely on our pawn central control. It means these two centralized pawns, which are restricting, of course, this four centralized squares. So, but Gyula Sachs played b6, and he didn't challenge Garry Kasparov's center immediately. So here Garry Kasparov uses this moment immediately and says, okay, you're not going to challenge my center, I'm going to attack you on the flank. So bishop to b7, if you play something like bishop to a6, it is a common idea in the Tarrasch defense. It's similar, that's why I'm talking so much about the Tarrasch. It's similar to the Grünfeld because the pawn structure is similar, and one of the main ideas of the Tarrasch can be to simply go and trade off some more pieces to go into a simplified line, then black could rely maybe on a 2 versus 1 situation on the queen side from as an endgame strategy. This could be an endgame strategy of blacks to simply trade off all of the minor pieces of the board, trade off the queens of the board, and go maybe into a favorable endgame where black could create here a distant pass pawn in this 2 versus 1 situation on the queen side. So I've analyzed this move, bishop to a6. I asked myself this question, is this possible? But it's really a bad continuation here for black, as white can continue to push here after potential c5. We can go h takes g6, h takes g6, and now queen to g4 is very risky here for black, because if you take c takes d, then we can go queen to h3, and this is already game over, I believe, because you're forced now to play something like f6. But now queen to e6 is very risky here for black. After rook to f7, we could simply take, and continuing here with queen to b3, rook to d1. This is a weird position, really bad structure here. Bishop to h6 is still a possibility, again with queen to h3 ideas, again trying some checkmates on the h file. So I'm not seeing a good way how black should proceed here. So see, it's really not good to play the move bishop to a6 immediately. In the game, Psakhis played bishop to b7, and now Kasparov develops the queen to f3. You see how you can already face some problems because you haven't challenged the center. Now, even if c5 happens, we could play something like rook to d1 and protect our very important d4 square. So in the game, queen to d7, played by Gyula Psakhis, he prevents this queen to h3 ideas to get the rook and queen battery on the h file. Knight to e2, and now h5, stopping a little bit white's progress, because there is always also the threat maybe to split pawns in front of the king with potential g4, then h5 ideas to really open the g file or the h file against black's king. So in the game, bishop to g5, played by Kasparov, and we have now knight to c6. Psakhis still doesn't challenge Kasparov's center. It gives again Garry Kasparov an opportunity to activate the piece, knight to f4. If you play something like e5 here, it seems like a dangerous idea, but the tactical threat that Garry Kasparov has prepared here is the move knight to g6. You could maybe try rook to e8 in order to open the position towards the king on the e file, but now we can simply take, knight takes e5, and after rook to e5, we can simply castle. After bishop to e4, we can, I believe, simply take queen to h5. Still continuing the game with an extra pawn, with this 3 versus 1 situation, with the great activity of the bishop pair, with possibilities to play rook to d1, rook to e1, simply getting these rooks on the most active files, of course, on this centralized file. So that's why after the move knight to f4, Gyula Psakhis tried e6, because he's trying now to lock this light square diagonal. In the game, the rook to d1. As I said, Gyula Psakhis didn't challenge Kasparov's center, so it gives Garry Kasparov the opportunity to improve the position of his minor pieces of these rooks. In the game, knight to f4, and what Gyula Psakhis was trying now after the move bishop to d3 is now finally to crack the position with the move e5, because now the knight on a5 has chased away, of course, the bishop to d3. Now this tactical threat on g6 doesn't work. So in the game, Kasparov takes, d takes e5, we have bishop to e5, and now finally castling. Now there are some discovered attack possibilities on the queen. In the game, Psakhis tried queen to g4, and here after move queen to e3, rook to e8 was played, which is a good move. Of course, getting the rook on this file where the queen is. If the position opens somehow, if the position gets too dynamic, then the queen could be endangered by the rook on e8. In the game, bishop to e2, played by Kasparov, and we have now bishop takes f4 by Gyula Psakhis. After bishop to f4, here that's what I meant in the title. Here Gyula Psakhis, I believe, has maybe a choice. Queen to f4, simply taking this pawn, but he was playing a little bit with the fire. He played the risky move knight to c4. He tried the counterattack, because if you try something like bishop to g4, what he was hoping for, that you get knight takes e3, and then if bishop takes e3 happens, then we can simply take the bishop, and white would be forced to play the move f3. After g takes f3, g takes f3. This would be probably a draw. Still, maybe black has also some good chances, because black has a much more healthier pawn structure, doesn't have so many pawn islands, but from an endgames perspective, this Gyula Sachs, I think, wouldn't lose even against Garry Kasparov. So, but what he missed here, I believe, is that after the move knight to c4, here Kasparov takes, bishop takes c4, and here Gyula Sachs goes into a very, very risky line with the move rook to e4. Garry Kasparov counterattacks with the move f3, and now here, after the move queen to f4, here Gyula Sachs again hoped that will simply take, and that Garry Kasparov will take the queen and will force trades of queens, and then again it could be a favorable continuation for black. But what Gyula Sachs missed is now here a great tactical shot. Bishop takes f7. What you can do is of course to take, but now there is this problem of f takes e4. You see, you cannot take the queen. The queen is pinned to the king on the f file. So in this particular move order, Gyula Sachs tried king to g7, but now Garry Kasparov gets out of this tactical mess and plays queen to d3. Here queen to e3 was played. If you play rook to e3, then you get a very risky bishop to g6, and then followed with queen to h5. I think it's game over here for black. So that's why here black tried queen to e3, but now Garry Kasparov simply takes, rook takes e3, queen takes e3, rook takes e3, and now a very nice move, rook to d7. Now, although the pawn count is the same, still this is a better position for white. If you try something like rook to c3, this is not good because you get bishop to d5, the discovered attack, and you lose the bishop. So that's why here black had to escape with the king to h6, also protecting the g6 pawn. But now rook takes c7, and now Garry Kasparov has a good endgame. He's a pawn up, but the most important thing is that he has now an extra tempo, and he still can activate this other rook and go maybe with both of these rooks on the 7th rank, and try also some checkmate threats here on h7. So in the game, bishop to a6, rook to d1, bishop to d3. Gyula Sachs is trying to lock here this d file. In the game, rook to d2. We have bishop to f5, and now king to f2, attacking the rook, rook to e5, and now rook to d5. Forcing now trades of rooks, trying to simplify the position, because we have now, as I said, a pawn up. Still this possibilities to create maybe something here, also creating a very important g5 check. Rook takes d5, bishop to d5, and now rook to d8. But now Garry Kasparov locks the d file. In the game, Gyula Sachs tried b5, but you don't want to take, of course, you lose the bishop. Now Garry Kasparov shows really some great endgame skills, because now we're in an endgame stage. You should play actively with your king. So king to e3, king towards the center. The king is not endangered because you can only create some checks, but again, even if you create some checks, you simply improve the position of the king. The king will move towards the center further, and still we would have possibilities to maybe push this pawn. This pawn is very dangerous. So in the game, Gyula Sachs tried a5. We have king to f4, bishop to b1, and now g4. H takes g, f takes g4, and now after rook to f8, we have king to g3. In this position, black resigned. There's nothing you can do. You could try maybe here some g5 ideas, but we can play first of all bishop takes rook to c6, attacking it. The king take this pawn, take also this pawn on b5. So if you don't react, you always risk this checkmate threat. It's of course g5, then followed with bishop to f3. You would be forced to give up the rook, and it was game over. So as I said, you see how bad it can be if you try to challenge tactically. Here Garry Kasparov, great performance against the Grunfeld. This was now his first win in this tournament. We'll follow now this Interzonal tournament from Moscow from 1982. It was really an incredible tournament. As I said, we'll have also the historical moment when Garry Kasparov will face Mikhail Tal. This will be also an incredible match game. Be prepared. We have some great times with Garry Kasparov. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I enjoyed it a lot. If you want to see more Garry Kasparov's games from the series, here's the link. And if you want to see the best chess games from the history, you can also check out my best chess games of all time series. And if you like this content, you can also subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.